Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guy. This is another episode of the C programming series. And in this video we are going to implement the actual deletion functionality in our bank account system. And because in the last video we kind of optimized stuff a bit, so in this video we can actually implement the deletion functionality. Now there are two ways you could go about this. So we have basically got all of the accounts loaded, and what we can do is we can write all of the accounts to the disk but skip the account that is supposed to be deleted. So we won't write that account, but we will write all of the other accounts. But this would be a lot of fwrite calls, but we can actually do an optimization by let's create two integers for now. One we are going to call id to delete, which is going to be the id that the user will ask us to delete, which we will by default set to -1, which is an invalid id, so that we never actually if the user enters an invalid id or something, we don't delete anything wrong. So we are going to also create an index to delete, which we are also going to set to -1 right now. And what we will do is we will ask the user to enter that id and also take that id using scanf. So we can use printf to say something like enter the id to delete, and then we can I'm not going to put a new line here, and then we can use scanf to actually read that id using the d format specifier followed by the address of the id to delete. We convert it to a pointer, so that should get us the id we need to delete. But the IDs may not always be contiguous. So there might be an ID 0, and then we might have not necessarily the next ID. We don't know if it is 1 or not, because it might be 2 if we deleted the one ID. So what we will do is we will create an for loop with which we will start I at 0. We will go as many elements as we have got, and then for each element we will basically get our account. So we are going to check if the account that this element, if each account, for each account we are going to check if its id is equal to the id to delete. If it is, then we will set the index to delete to that account's id, and we can go ahead and do that by saying account. Actually we need to say accounts here. We need to say accounts here instead of account. So accounts I dot id is equal to the id to delete. If that is the case, then we are going to set index to delete to I, which is basically the current index. So that should give us the index we need to delete, and using some advanced pointer arithmetic we can actually do this in a very performant way using only 2 write calls instead of as many as the accounts are. So the way we will do this is by we can actually there is an error here. We need to make sure that we use fseek to set our pointer back to the start of the file, and we also need to make sure to close this file that we are using for reading. So we will use fclose to actually close that, and then we will open it again for writing this time. So we will go ahead and say fp is equal to fopen and accounts.dat, the same file, but we will use it for writing by using write binary mode. And this will actually delete all of the contents of the file because we are not appending or anything, so it will delete all of the content. And now we can do that, and that is pretty awesome. Now what we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and basically first write all of the accounts till the index, and then write all of the accounts after the index. That will allow to write. So we will actually not fwrite yet. We will create an if statement which will check if the index to delete is greater than or equal to 0 and it is less than the size, which means if the user entered an invalid id, then we will have an invalid index, and we do not want to do any invalid pointer arithmetic, or else it will cause our program to crash. So what we will do is we will add this if statement condition, and this means that we do have a valid index. And now we are going to write first of all from the first element. So we will say fwrite, and we will just pass accounts because the array basically is a pointer to the first element. So we will say accounts, and for the element size we will of course use size of account underscore t like we have been doing. And for the element count we will actually pass the index to delete here, which means that we will delete we will basically write all of the accounts up to the index, not including the index that we are supposed to be deleting, but up to it. So for example, if we are supposed to be deleting say the 5th index or the 6th account, which will have index 5, then we will basically write the first 5, which would be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We won't actually write the 5th index. So that's pretty awesome, and we will pass the file pointer as well. Now we will actually write the other accounts apart from this. So we will skip one which we are supposed to delete, and we will write the other accounts using another write statement. This time we will use accounts, and we will can use the how we generally use an array, because since an array is just a pointer, we can use the index to delete plus 1, and we use that as an address, because this is what it now gives an account underscore t instead, and we can use the address of that to essentially get the remaining part of the array. Now for that, of course, for the element size, we will just say size of account underscore t like we do normally. For the element count though, we will say size, so the actual size of the original array minus the index to delete, which means the elements that we have written, of course we will subtract that, and we will subtract 1, which is the actual index that we are deleting. So that is actually not going to work. We need to subtract 1 here as well, after the index to delete. This will write basically all of the accounts up to the index, and then skip the index that we are supposed to delete, and then write all of the remaining accounts. With that should be all we need, and this only uses 2 fwrite statements, and if we were to write each of the accounts, that would use too many fwrite statements. Now if the index is not that, then we also need to handle that case. In that case, what we essentially want to do is we just want to display some kind of error message to the user or something, saying that the ID was invalid or something like that, and then we need to basically write the whole array as it is. So we are going to use else here, and then with the when we actually do here, we first of all print an error message to the user saying, you can say something like ID was invalid, or you can say no ID was or you can say no account with ID. And then we can use a format specifier to put the actual ID, no account find with ID, and then we can say D here, put a new line after that, and we will pass the ID to delete here, not the index, the ID to delete. So that's all awesome, and now we are going to actually to the file write all of the things that we need. So we are going to say fwrite accounts, and we are basically going to write the whole accounts array as it is, account underscore t, and for the element count we just going to pass size without any changes, and for the file stream we will just pass fp, and that should pretty much handle that functionality for our program. By the way, you want to make sure that you call fclose when you are done doing that, or else the functionalities after that might not work. So we can go and run make, and in here if I read all accounts, what you should see is that I've got 3 accounts. One is John, some, and there is some guy and Tom with ID 0, 2, and 3. The reason the one ID is missing is because I actually deleted that account earlier when I was testing it. So let's go and delete another account, and for the ID I'm going to just say 2, so that it deletes the some guy account. And if I read that, what you can see is that only the John and here you can see in the bottom of the screen that only the John and Tom accounts are left, and all of the other accounts have been deleted, and they do not exist. And if we were to add a new ID, we can do that, and it would be actually not be 3 but it would be 4. And yeah, that's pretty awesome, because we can now add accounts, we can remove them, and we can do everything, and that works very well. So yeah, this was pretty much it for this video. In the next video we are going to implement depositing and withdrawing, so stay tuned for that. I will see you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe as well, and bye.